Stephen A., who's the biggest culprit for the Steelers' loss?
You know, my temptation is to say it's Mr. Mike Mitchell. Obviously, I'm very disgusted with what we've seen. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, well, we hear you.
Because I'm hearing the dial.
Loud and
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
we got you.
Listen, Mike Mitchell is the big culprit. And the reason why Mike Mitchell is the biggest culprit is because he was talking before the game. Now, I understand that he went on Twitter and swore that, you know what? Excuse me, it was from weeks earlier and what have you. I get all of that. But the bottom line is we saw how the Jacksonville Jaguars interpreted it. Plus, according to a reporter, they had heard Mike Mitchell outside of the Jaguars, confronting the Jaguars, talking about, you're going to remember my name when all of this is said and done. It's not just him, of course, because he can play. And I understand it. And I'm not trying to get on him like he can't play. He's some scrub. Because Mike Mitchell can play, and I got mad respect for him. But the bottom line is I don't care what anybody says. Ultimately, this comes down, unfortunately, it breaks my heart to say it, to Coach Mike Tomlin, and more importantly, your defensive coordinator, Butler, because here's the deal. You gave up 38 points to Blake Bortles. 38 points to a Blake Bortles offense. I mean, there's no other way to slice it. There's no other way to slice that. You got Leonard Fournette running roughshod over you before he hurt his ankle, okay? You had a third and 8, and Bortles connected with Marcus Lee. You had a 45-yard pass to Keelan Coles when the Steelers were marching back. He completed 5 or 6 of his passes for 120 yards in the fourth quarter, looking like Tom Brady, for crying out loud. Right here at this field, the way Tom Brady looked in Pittsburgh a few weeks earlier. This is the Steelers' defense. And so ultimately it has to come down to your head coach and your defensive coordinator, because we've been starving for some semblance of the steel curtain from glory days past. I haven't seen it since. This defense is good by the numbers, but it doesn't intimidate anybody. And yesterday was the latest example of that. I'm going to put a lot of it, however, on Mitchell, on Le'Veon Bell with his tweets, and anybody who was chirping and talking smack, because no matter what the Steelers tried to say, it is clear they were looking past the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's about the head coach not reeling them in. It's about a defensive coordinator that can't seem to get it done. And it's about guys on the defensive side of the ball that clearly couldn't get it done. And it's about a team collectively that was looking past the Jacksonville Jaguars. And what made it inexcusable, it's not like you haven't played the Jacksonville Jaguars, who were 3-13 last year. They were a good team this year. And last October 8th, they came into Pittsburgh and spanked you 30-9. How you could look past them is inexcusable. That is what happened yesterday as far as I'm concerned, and that's why the Steelers are home watching like the rest of us right now.
The greatest coach in the history of football is Bill Belichick. But my favorite coach is Mike Tomlin, because I imagine if I were a player, that's the guy I'd want to play for. You listen to Mike Tomlin talk, you think I'd run through a wall for that guy. And Mike Tomlin is to blame most for that loss. First, let's start with the overconfidence. It's the reason I picked Jacksonville. I thought it would be a close game. I wasn't sure. But the more I considered how overconfident Pittsburgh seemed to a team that whooped up on them 30-9 and really beat them up at Heinz Field. The fact that that team that beat them up had this excellent defense, and you heard a defensive player chirping. Now, Mike Mitchell did that, as it turns out, weeks before, that game, and he was talking about the Patriots. But still, you're talking about the Patriots. What about the teams in your way? If you notice, Patriots players never talk like that. They talk about whatever game is in front of them. Where does that come from? The head coach. Comes from Bill Belichick. So the idea that Tomlin was overconfident, you even heard reports about it right before the game. Maybe that has something to do with why Le'Veon Bell felt comfortable talking about holding out, going into the Jacksonville game, because hey, we don't have to worry about Jacksonville. We're going to play the Patriots. I mean, it just gave you this feeling that the Pittsburgh Steelers were acting as though they were on a bye week. They weren't on a bye. They had the best defense in the NFL, or one of the two best, along with the Vikings to contend with. A team that beat them up. Who's to blame for that? Well, that's the head coach. He sets the tone. And then, in the moment of truth, in a game that was still winnable, you hadn't even hit the 2-minute warning yet, he decides to try an onside kick. This is not Monday morning quarterbacking here. That was the wrong call. And again, my thoughts went to Bill Belichick. I tweeted about it. This is why Bill Belichick, one of the main reasons he's as good as he is. It's just wait for the other guy to make a mistake. Mike Tomlin panicked. He made a mistake. So both in terms of, this is my favorite coach I'm talking about. This is the guy. Tomlin's my favorite coach. But both in terms of the psychological and emotional preparation of the team and in terms of the call in the moment of truth, if you need to point to a GOAT, in this case, it is Mike Tomlin.